Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Shaman Talk with Tegan. Tarot with Tegan is where you will find me on Instagram and Facebook. All right, welcome back. So, today is a solo episode. I will still continue to talk to others and interview them and things like that. But what I want to do with this channel as well is once in a while, like kind of throw in some local history. So, for anybody who might not know me personally who is watching this, I am from the suburbs of Chicago. And so there's just so much interesting local history around here. And I'm sure you could say that about almost anywhere that you visit or live. But I just want to highlight some of those things as well. And not only the history, but obviously I'm going to talk about some of the possible hauntings that are around here as well. So, number one, if you see me looking down a lot, it's because I got my notes because I don't want to get all the dates and stuff wrong. But also, so this first one I'm going to start with is the Dole Mansion in Crystal Lake. So if you've never heard of it, it's actually a really fascinating history. But after I give the history, I am going to talk about my personal experience with the Dole Mansion. So one thing I want to say too up front as I start posting these types of stories more is that, as I visit these places, I might not have the experiences that I had this time. That's why I wanted to start with the Dole Mansion. It's local. There's lots of history on it. It's very open. You can go to the mansion. And just I had this really intense connection with it, at least briefly, that I feel I want to share. And I'm going to do that later. So right before I dive into the history here, I do want to just say out there that, sorry, getting a notification here and my mic's too high. Okay, there we go. I want to say that, when I went to the mansion the first time, I didn't know anything about the history. All I knew was just that there was this giant mansion in Crystal Lake that you could literally go to and see at least parts of it inside. And I was like, awesome, let's do that. So I want to put that out there just because there's some things I'm going to talk about in this history that I had no idea when I had the personal experience that I did. Okay. So, 1865, Dole Mansion is built by Charles Dole. He was a grain baron, had lots of money. This mansion, if you've never seen it, is huge, and a part of it actually at one point burnt down, as unfortunately a lot of these old buildings tend to do when they're abandoned, because it was abandoned there for a while. So he was a grain baron, and he lived there with his wife, his son, and two daughters. And again, I did not know. I figured when I first toured this mansion that someone lived here, probably had kids, that's the norm, but I knew nothing about the history. So it was built for $100,000 back in the day, which roughly today is like 1.5 million, which tracks, honestly. If you've ever been there, you know. So this guy, on top of being a grain baron, also eventually started the Crystal Ice Company because, again, those of you who are local, his land encompassed the Crystal Lake. And he started an ice business. It's crazy to think about these days because we have freezers, but he would just mine the ice right out of the lake and ship it to Chicago and different distributing companies and, made even more money. So when I heard about Charles Dole, first of all, I'm not great at digging into stuff. I don't have that capacity at this point. Maybe as I do this more, I will. I do my research, but I don't know how to get those underground things, but of what I could find of Charles Dole, one person referred to him as eccentric, which is oftentimes talk for odd, right? Or maybe even worse a little bit. So at one point it is said that he, right behind his mansion had a race horse track right in the backyard practically. At one point from his front door down to where the tracks were for the ice, moving the ice, was covered and carpeted. I don't know, because of the cold winters, maybe. And then this is hearsay. This is up in the air of whether this is true or not. But some say that he literally added on to like the tracks for the ice for his daughter's wedding at the house, years later, so that people could basically take the train and like get off right at the house. So, and at one point, I heard this. So I went to the Dole originally, like at this point 2 to 3 years ago. I can't remember exactly. And then I recently went back there just to like go back before I made this podcast. In one part of the mansion, and actually the first floor of the mansion, there is the Lincoln Room, and there's literally a giant like ode to Lincoln, and there's carved out of a tree from that property is just a giant Lincoln statue. And the the word on the street is that Lincoln had actually been to that mansion and that he did business with Charles Dole. So that's pretty wild, and like I guess no wonder. And in this room, it's interesting. In certain parts of the mansion, you have these giant doors, like super wide, and then you get into this Lincoln Room, especially, and the ceilings are super tall. And essentially, during that time, not just with this mansion, but with society, the bigger and wider the doors and the taller the ceilings, that's what like meant you had wealth and power and things like that. You were successful. So it's little things like that that are just so interesting, right? So, um, okay, so in 1896. Oh, let me backtrack here. So he lived there with his wife Julia, his son Sidney, and he had two daughters, Mary and Harriet, or Hattie. Now, again, this is something I learned later. Hattie supposedly had some cognitive issues. And so, especially back in the day, like they did not know what to do with people who were different. So, word on the street, I guess is how I'll say it, is that she was often kind of kept behind closed doors, which is very sad and unfortunate, but also kind of connects back to the experience I'm going to share in a little bit. So, okay, we'll skip forward here to 1896. Charles Dole retires and sells the house and the ice company to his son-in-law. And then in 1914, the ice house burns down and they essentially lose everything. So then around that time, and I could not get a specific date, the entire family like leaves. So then it sits abandoned for a while. And then in 1922, Louise Ringling, yes, that Ringling, comes in and buys it with some investors. And so she basically restores the mansion, adds more modern plumbing and electric and things like that. And she adds on this huge part to it that's still there today. It's like there's the mansion and there's this giant Tudor style like addition. And in that addition, she added a ballroom. She had 44 bedrooms so people could come and stay there, because it eventually became the Crystal Lake Country Club. So it had they added a golf course and things like that. But then not too long after that was the Great Depression. And again, long story short, it just couldn't survive. So then eventually, in 1938, the whole thing just closed down and once again was abandoned. Then in 1944, it was converted by a church into a boys' school. I don't want to mispronounce this, but I think it's Franciscan Order of the Lake Forest. So the addition basically became like a dormitory for the boys' school and like the schooling area. And then the mansion part was where like the nuns and things lived. And they kind of ruined parts of the mansion, honestly. From the sounds of it, 'cause they ripped down certain walls, like original walls, to build. What am I trying to say? They were trying to build something and they ripped down walls. They painted over like nice, rare, like oak wood and did some damage, let's just say, which is unfortunate. Like some of the stained glass windows, surprisingly, they took out. And one stained glass window was removed anyways from that addition from Mrs. Ringling. But yeah, so that lasted for a while, that boys' school. And then we get to 1975 and it closes. So already this house and the add-on has a lot of layers of history there. So closes in 1975. Then in 1976, the first congregational church, moves in there. And they kind of revamp the whole thing, not necessarily the actual house mansion part, but the addition. They make it into like a community center with daycare and a bunch of different things like that. And it was really community focused and seems to be a very positive thing. So what's interesting, especially if you're a local, in 1979, this church had their first ice cream social. And guess what that ice cream social has grown into? That's what Lakeside Fest is. And if you're from the area, Lakeside Fest is like this huge thing, this big, big festival they do every summer. And it's it's like around the area of the mansion. So that started in 1979 as a little tiny ice cream social. And so, eventually in 2002, that church left. Like they sold the building. But today, that's who puts on Lakeside Fest, is the Dole Mansion. It's not the city of Crystal Lake. It's the Dole Mansion. And they do it to raise money, because to keep up with that mansion and its addition and everything like that, it takes a lot of manpower, a lot of money. So a little bit of history there, which is really interesting. Okay, so we're in 2002, and local leaders and representative see that it's for sale. And they somehow scrounge up. The figures are different. I have two different figures. It's between 1 to 2, which is big, but at least $1 million in like 40 days. They get that money together to be able to buy the mansion and preserve it, because they heard that it was slated to get turned into condos. Boo. Nothing against like developers, real estate developers, but like that's so lame. That'd be awesome to live in there, don't get me wrong, but like why do we always have to like ruin parts of history and even like Mother Nature? Okay, I won't even go there about how much land is for sale. But anyways, they stop it from being turned into condos, and it is what it is now today because of this band of people that came together to save it. And now they're doing a lot of preservation work and a lot like trying to really like have it be still a community-based thing, but preserve the history, which is amazing. And I'll get into, after I share my experience, like a lot more stuff that they do there. Okay, so my experience. I want to preface this by saying that when I talk about what I'm going to talk about, there is a little bit of, I guess, a trigger warning I should put out there. And what I'm going to share is not to ever accuse anyone of anything at any point, especially having to do with the Dole today. It seems to be run and operated by amazing people, and they do great things. My experience that I'm going to share in a second isn't pleasant, but I feel if I don't share and I don't share it truthfully, that whoever came forward to share that with me, I'd be doing them a disservice by not at least trying to explain their experience they were showing me. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with the fact that I went there a couple years ago for the first time. First of all, it just said on the website back then, like, just come in for a tour whenever we're open. And I was like, really? Like, okay. So I showed up, and the woman was kind of taking me around the first floor. And then eventually she turns to me and she's like, so anyways, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to just do it yourself? I was like, what? Wait a minute. I can just like walk around this mansion, this giant, awesome mansion by myself unaccompanied? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'll do that. Like, that's awesome. So I'm walking around, and it was, and if I can get the pictures up, you can see in some of them, like, the ceiling was falling apart in some areas. Some areas, the floors were very like uneven. So I was pretty shocked that they were letting people just walk around, which I will say now you cannot do, because they are trying to redo the whole thing, and it's a slow process. So you are not allowed to go upstairs at this point. But when I just went like 2 weeks ago, at least when I'm recording this. And I went back up and I met a very nice person there, and he basically just asked very nicely if we could go upstairs a little bit and see how the restoration is going. And he was very nice and awesome and let me go upstairs for a little bit. Anywho, you can't actually do that anymore, at least not right now. So back then, they let me just wander by myself up there. I'm taking all these pictures. And I'm only there for maybe like an hour. So I didn't have any necessary like actual experiences while I was there, except for like awe and like being awestruck, like, holy crap, this is amazing. But there were certain rooms that I would go into, and there was a definite like change in energy, So for those of you who know what I'm saying, get it. Some of you might not totally get it, but I'd walk into a certain area and kind of be like, what's going on here? Did I particularly sense a specific spirit there? No. But I'm not saying that there aren't spirits there. Just that hour and a half that I was there, nothing extreme happened. Just differences in energies. And there was one room where it was a little bit just weird. It was like a weird energy. I didn't feel comfortable, but it wasn't anything like where I felt I was in danger. There was a little spirit in the corner or anything. So, enjoyed my time. And then I was just like, okay, I guess I'll go. That night, I had a dream. And before I go on, some of you already are going to be like, ugh, a dream, get out of here. But that is how spirit talks to me a lot. So those of you who know me, like I do my tarot readings, I do my dowsing rods, I do all sorts of stuff, energy healing. But when I get told something in a dream, in specific dreams, like that, I know what's happening in my heart, in my head. I know it's true, or at least some aspect of it, of what I'm getting is true, whether it has to do with me. Sometimes I get dreams about my ancestors and the things they had to live through in life. But I trust what I get in certain dreams. This is one of those dreams. I'm laying in bed and I sit up. I'm in the perspective. I know it's not me, but I'm seeing through someone's eyes. And I look, and there's another kid. I feel like I'm a female, young female. There's a girl in a bed next to me, in her own bed though, but it's another little girl. And there's 2 doors. And I'm looking out the doors, and I'm literally like in this state of extreme fear. Like even right now, like I feel like, I asked the spirit to come forward right now if they wanted to help me explain this. So I'm looking out these doors, and all of a sudden I feel and can kind of see this like black shadow like slowly crawling out in the hall. You can see it like coming like down the hallways, and it's just like, ooh, like I'm in a state of fear. I'm just sitting there like this, and in my mind I'm going, oh no, like the monster's coming. The monster's coming to get me. And so me and this other girl are sitting up in our beds, just slowly watching this thing crawl towards our room. So I wake up and I'm like, what was that? Because I didn't fully recognize where I was, but I knew, just like I heard about the monster, I knew I was in the Dole Mansion. And this was a time period where it was a family there. And I'm not saying anyone, I didn't get a face, I didn't get a name, just a basic time period. And this was way back, just a single family home. So that was a terrible feeling. And so I woke up kind of panicked and was like, that's so weird. I don't understand. Then I forgot about it, went about my day. Well, wouldn't you know it, the next day, then that same night, the next night, same exact dream. I'm in bed. Who I'm assuming is my sister is next to me in her own bed. We're up. We're looking out these 2 doors that's in the bedroom, and this thing is coming and crawling, and I'm thinking, oh no, the monster's coming, the monster's coming. Now, what I inferred that time, because I recognized, oh my God, I'm back here again. Someone's trying to tell me something. First of all, I got the feeling that even though I'm doing what I do, I know that monsters and entities and what people call demons exist, right? But this wasn't that, or at least not not fully. This was someone I knew. It was a familiar person who turns into this monster for one reason or another, who was coming to, and this is the trigger warning, from what I could gather, some kind of abuse. From my inference, it was probably more along the lines of sexual abuse. But my dream, that vision, whoever was giving it to me, did not give me a name, did not give me a face. All I knew is that it was male. That's all I knew. And that's also another thing that made me go, okay, what the hell? Because when I deal with like entities in my work, there's no male, female, anything. It's just what it is. This had a distinct male energy. So when that happens, that tells me that that's a human being. So that was my personal experience. And to have that same exact dream 2 nights in a row, that's what made me want to share that. Just because, you know, as much as that might be hard to hear for some people, or you might not believe me, that's fine. I'm not trying to say this is absolute truth, but again, I feel like that was brought forward for a reason, and it just needed to be put out there, maybe, because we tend to smooth and gloss over certain parts of history, not just local history, of course, and we sometimes miss the truth, and sometimes these certain victims get thrown under the bus or get thrown, you know, under the carpet and just nope, that didn't happen. But I have a feeling it did happen. So I'm just gonna leave that there, and we're gonna move on to today, because although something like that may have transpired years ago, today the mansion is cared for and, you know, has a lot of great people around it. And I can't even name all the like stuff they do there now. Like Lakeside Fest, I already talked about. They do a big thing on New Year's. They have a farmer's market. They have live music. They have a farmer's market actually in the wintertime too. That's in the mansion. Most of it's in the addition part, but also you can go into like the bottom level of the mansion and there's things there too. And in the addition, you know, there are some businesses that run out of there as well. There's just so much going on. So if you're ever interested in doing something, going out there, just to even see the outside or the bottom level, I would totally recommend it. It's amazing. And on social media and the website, I believe they go by just the Dole, Dole. And yeah, I would encourage you to look into your own information if you want, or if someone's watching this and you have more information on the Dole or on Charles Dole himself or anybody else in the family, I would love to hear about it. And also, if you have questions about the story I shared, feel free. I mean, whatever it is, or if you had your own experiences that either correlate or negate what I just said, I'm always interested. I'm always up for that. So, yeah, but also one last thing I will put out there is, if you also know something in the general area that I'm talking about, like another place that has a lot of history and or a lot of spooky stories or anything like that, let me know. Because I know I'm not the only one who's experienced something there. Usually it's more like people being there experience things. So I know the guy I was talking to just recently when I went back, he's saying he's often the last one at the mansion. He closes everything up and he's like, "Oh man." It's like me and my you know, whoever he works with at the end of the night. He's like, we're always like, "Okay, get the doors locked and get out of here," because he's like, cuz all the noises are going to start soon. He's like, "We always hear weird noises right when we're locking up coming from all different parts of the mansion." And some people have like caught things on camera and their pictures, and but then there's people who claim they've never had a paranormal experience in their life, which that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Like I said, I would not have had my experience if that were the case. But you know, not everyone's open to that stuff. So one of those things where you take it with a grain of salt, and if you want to go visit the mansion for any reason, do it. And as usual, if you have any questions for me, just anything at all, throw it out there. If you know of any other cool places, please let me know. And I'm going to continue to do this once in a while, throw local history in there. And yeah, we'll get back to your regularly scheduled other people talking, not just me. Okay. Goodbye, everybody.